and neutral shipping. Fishing trawlers, again, supply boats have been sunk by mysterious explosions. Again, we assess these to be mining of waters. This extra big land mob on land just indicates the fact that we're also enforcing ceasefire agreement all over the country of Brownia, not just at sea, but we're aggressively patrolling our borders on land and making sure that Brownian forces do not come into the demilitarised zone, which is a 3-mile wide strip along that border. Okay, that's all the update I have for the moment. I'll hand over to the Senior Minister of Defence.
I'll now deliver a prepared press statement. The previous 12 months have seen an increased level of terrorist attacks on Mustardian interests in the region of northwestern former Britannica. Attacks which have been notable for their boldness and increasing frequency throughout the region. The apparent inability of the Brownian government to maintain law and order in its own territory is a cause of great concern to us, the Mustardian government. Our own intelligence sources indicate that international terrorist and local paramilitary groups are enjoying rising levels of logistical and financial support in this region. And this is assessed as a direct cause of the prolific level of drugs and arms trafficking in the region. A concurrent crisis is forming in the form of the recent actions of the Brownian Defence Force, which have been defeated in their expansionist attacks on the sovereign Mustardian enclave of Edrichillis earlier this year, and they continue to break the terms of the ceasefire agreement both on land and in the air. Although this agreement is internationally recognised and was reached with consent on all sides to maintain peace in the region, the Brownian Defence Force's increased activity in the area is becoming a cause for concern for Mustardia. Mustardia is also keen to show its support to South Hebridea's rights to self-determination and recognising its territorial claims on the disputed Shiite Islands in the face of an increasingly aggressive Brownian patrol of the Sea of the Hebrides. While northwestern former Britannica is becoming increasingly unstable with the resurgence of Quake sympathies and terrorist activity in the region, Brownia continues to ignore the comings and goings of terrorists in their own country. And although President Hardiman, our president, does not believe that Brownia is explicitly supporting such insurgency, he is concerned that Brownia is not making sufficient efforts to counter it. President Hardiman has today directed the Chief of the Defence Staff to dispatch an expeditionary force to the northwestern region of former Britannica in order to monitor the sovereign waters of the Mustardian enclave of Edrichillis and to provide military aid to the civil community against the increasing numbers of arms traffickers, terrorists and pirates in the region. This deployment of Mustardian forces aims to restore stability to the region. The force is a force for good. The force is fully combat ready, and the government will not shy away from its responsibilities in this region or from the use of military force if that is required, in order to implement the ceasefire agreement and maintain the rule of law in the area. Mustardia remains a force for good, and it will act inside international law. In the meantime, the Mustardian government strongly advises all its citizens to cancel all non-essential travel to the regions of Caledonia, Rumskaya and North Hebridean until such time as the region is once again deemed safe and stable. Regular security updates will be available on all government websites. Thank you. Are there any questions? If you do have questions, could you please address them through me?
Would you also please give your name when you ask a question and state the organisation you're working for? In other words, Mustardian TV, Brownian TV, Mustardian paper, etc. The Minister will field the question.
Thank you, Mustardian TV. How many forces have you dispatched in the north of the country?
We have not dispatched any forces at the moment, and at present with the security system, it's not this government's policy to discuss or promote the nature or level of forces for the reasons of operational security that we will be deploying. But as those deployments occur, more information will be released. Yes, please.
James Hassan, Mustardian TV. Is any dialogue taking place between the Brownian and Mustardian governments?
Yes, there is outlined dialogue taking place between the governments, and Emeraldia, an independent state within the region, has put itself forward as an intermediary to promote dialogue. Although no formal talks have been arranged, we are pressing very hard to achieve a formal dialogue, because it's in our interest to find a diplomatic solution as opposed to a military one to these problems. Yes, please.
David Heathfield, Browning TV. Won't the expeditionary force be a provocation to the Browning government?
The terms of the ceasefire agreement forbid the Brownian maritime forces to leave their home ports of Orcadia up to the north and Faslane down to the south. Therefore, if they were to deploy their own forces into the region to try and influence the area, they would be in breach of that internationally agreed agreement, and therefore we would have to enforce that agreement, and that would give rise to a greater chance of conflict. Therefore, we are going to shoulder that responsibility of policing those waters to return a stable security environment within the region, effectively giving them a helping hand.
Surely a third-party peacekeeping force, like from Emeraldia or even EOPA, would be a better idea.
Although EOPA has expressed a desire to become involved, they also recognise that they don't have sufficient force levels to cover this, as well as other security commitments that they have elsewhere in the world at the moment. They have stated that they will deploy some units to the area. As yet we don't know what type of units or how many, but we wait for further dialogue with the European government. Emeraldia is determined not to become militarily involved and is not prepared to deploy its forces to the region. And that was stated at the recent UN Security Council meeting that gave rise to UNSCR 1003, which of course gives us the ability to go out to prevent the movement of terrorist arms and drugs within the region.
Minister, you mentioned that you support South Aberdea's self-determination policy. What would you say to claims that you have expansion aspirations as far as South Aberdea is concerned after recent discoveries of natural resources?
Mustardia is secure within its own boundary. We have sufficient mineral resources and sources of natural gas and oil to maintain our economy at the current levels. We do not feel the need to exploit these resources in the Minches, certainly not at this present time. Our ambition or our desire, I should say, to see self-determination within South Hebridean is one purely to recognise the rights of these individuals, which are not ethnically connected or religiously or culturally connected to the main Brownian territories in any way, shape or form, to have the right to determine their own outcomes, who should govern them, and how they could best exploit their own resources. And it is our aim to support them in this case, diplomatically, not militarily, in order to achieve this. We do not have any expansionist claim over the region. We are secure within our own boundaries, and our only interest, as far as Mustardians are concerned, is maintenance of the security and the safety of our own people within the enclaves of Edricillis and Loch Hugh against the rising level of terrorism which is being acted against them by a global terrorist organisation which is able at the moment to operate freely on Brownian territory and move across the borders.
Alexis Akeles, Mustardian News. How real is the terrorist threat to citizens? Is there an impending attack, or is it present? Is it more